Welcome to Exploring the Variable Site Part 2, adding interactive hotspots. As we've pointed out before, the stroke is going to follow my cursor as I roll over these different sections. Now they're using a full page hotspot, meaning that I can go anywhere on the page and everything will be interactive. Even if we do it down here on the bottom, you'll see the stroke still follows the cursor. Well, today what we're going to do is just start off by adding some simple buttons, and we'll do the full page effect in the future. So today I'm just going to add these rectangles that are going to allow us to get a very similar effect, and again we'll keep building up from there. Let's get going. So here I have a fork of the finished file from the previous lesson, where we got this highlighted stroke segment to animate along the curved path. Now we started out with an SVG that just had a single path in it, and we manually duplicated it and created the path highlight segment. Now what I want to do is jump back into Boxy SVG and grab the buttons we're going to use so that we can hover across the SVG and make this segment move. So over in Boxy SVG, I went ahead and added these 4 colored rectangles. I want to point out that they're all inside of a group here, and what I want to do is just copy out that group and bring it into CodePen. I didn't want you to have to watch me draw all those rectangles and position them, as it's something you all can do after watching the first few lessons in the SVG course. So let's go ahead, right click, copy outer SVG, and when I go back into my demo, I'm going to go right below the second path here, and I'm going to paste, and you'll notice that it only pastes in that group that contains these 4 rectangles. And on the next run, you will see the animation play, and we have those nice rectangles here ready for us to hook up with some code. Now I'm going to start by showing you a beginner way of approaching making these buttons interactive, and then we'll do a little bit more professional way. So starting out, let's just go into these buttons here, and I'm going to give the first 2 buttons IDs of button 1 and button 2. Once those IDs are in place, I can go into the JavaScript, and I'm just going to paste some code here, which is going to give button 1 a mouse enter event listener that's going to create a GSAP 2 tween on my path highlight with these DrawSVG settings. Button 2 is going to have these SVG settings. Now I want to point out that I'm using these 25% increments because we have 4 buttons that span the width of that path. Now let's do a little bit of a refresh, and I'll show you why that might be a little problematic. Here you'll see the animation is playing, but when I mouse over button 1, woo, we get the line to move, and when I go to number 2, look how great that works. It's nice and slick, but you'll notice that the start of the line here doesn't really line up with the left edge of the button. And the right edge sort of bleeds over as well, and it's very obvious when I go to the first one here that the stroke, even though we're highlighting 25% of the path, it doesn't line up with the width of this button here. And that simply has to do with the fact that the path is curved. Consider this image here, where this is the halfway point from left to right, but the distance of this segment is not 50% of the total curve, all right? There's so much more of the curve on this side. If we were to highlight 50% of it, it would probably be somewhere around here. So all that to say that these 25% increments are going to need a little bit of fine tuning, but it's a good place to start. So I showed you the basic way just to show you that this is the code we would need to get the path segment to generally move to this hotspot that we're rolling over. However, I don't want to have to create this code over here 4 times. So what we're going to do is create our button code using a loop. So the first thing I'm going to do is get rid of the code here. Now in order to create my loop, I need to be able to accurately target these buttons here. So I'm going to go into my HTML, and I'm going to give this group the ID of buttons. And then in my JavaScript, I'm going to paste a little code that you don't need to see me typing right now, where I'm going to create an array of positions that are basically going to be the DrawSVG settings for each of the buttons. I'm then creating a buttons variable by selecting all the rectangles inside of my buttons group. Inside this loop, every button is going to add a mouse enter listener, and right now I'm just going to log out positions index, okay? So the first button in the loop is going to grab out 0%, 25%. The second one's going to be 25%, 50%, and so on and so forth. And now I can head over here, open up the console. Let's clear that out real quick. And what we're going to see is that when I mouse enter this button here, I get 50%, 75%, 0%, 25%, and all of them are getting their necessary value. So now that you see how that loop works, we're going to go ahead, close the console, and I'm going to get rid of that log. We know it works. And I'm just going to do a GSAP.toTween where the target is the path highlight. And we're going to animate to the DrawSVG values of whatever we grab from the positions array at a value of index. Now the next time we run, what we're going to see is that our mouse should dictate where the stroke goes. So let's go here, ooh, there, here, here, here. And right now, it's just so much fun to do this. Everything is silky smooth. Now, as I pointed out before, these 25% increments for the DrawSVG plugin values, due to the curve of the path, aren't necessarily accurate, all right? You'll see for the second one here, again, we're shooting over a little bit. When we go to the last one here, it's a little bit shy of where it should start. So I could spend a few minutes rolling over this one and guessing, oh, where should that end? And maybe I'll change the 25% to a 20%. And then after the opening animation plays, I can go over here and you'll see, oh, Carl, you picked just the right value. And instead of me finagling all of those, I'm just going to go over here, select these values that we have here, delete them, and I'm just going to paste in the ones that I have tested, all right? And now what you're going to see is that things look much better. When I go to the second one, you'll see things adjust, and we have these starting and ending points lining up better with each of these 25% hotspots that we have here. So feel free to study those values, tweak them as you like, but for now, I'm really liking this level of interactivity that we've acquired in just a little bit of time. And remember, as I showed you in the previous video, we're eventually going to get to a point where I can roll over anywhere down here, and that highlight segment will follow my mouse pointer. In the next video, we'll add these sections down below where the headers scroll up as the text moves up as well, and it really adds to the experience. If you're feeling ambitious, I'd encourage you to try to build it out on your own. It isn't terribly tricky, and most people who've gone through beyond the basics should be able to work it out. But don't worry, I'll show you how to do it step by step. See you in the next video.